Hello, everyone. This is High Priestess Tana, and thank you for tuning into Tana Temple Healing Works. I'm back again with another video, and I wanted to touch base on a subject that you probably don't hear a lot of people talk about. So, I'm just going to hop right into it. But first and foremost, I hope that everyone is doing well. I know that I said I was going to upload some content earlier, but I had to take care of some business earlier, and it took longer than expected. So, I am back, and I would like to share my insight on how I feel about this symbolism that I used to see very often, and I'm quite sure is still relevant now. But I just wanted to touch base on the half skeleton symbolism. You will see a lot of rappers on their album art actually portray themselves as being half skeleton and half human, like half of their face is human looking with flesh and the other half is just skeletal or skeleton looking. So I found out that there are some, how would I say it, some details that can go rather deeply, very deep down the rabbit hole, if you will. And there's a very valid explanation for why a lot of these rappers portray themselves as a half skeleton or half dead type of individual on their album cover or album art. So if you think about it, a lot of rappers, they pass away at a very young age. I'm just going to be honest. A lot of rappers, especially now, are dropping like flies. They're passing away so young, either through violence or either it's drugs or, something very tragic. Usually it's a tragic death. Okay? And my heart goes out to those young people, especially to anybody who's going through a lot, but especially young people, because a lot of the youth are following what they see when it comes to living life like a rock star or a hip hop or rap star or whatever you into, right? To me, the rock star lifestyle and the rapper slash hip hop lifestyle overlap each other now. So there really isn't a difference. The lines are blurred. Okay. So when I look at these album covers, I noticed that it reminds me of the tarot card death, which could also mean transformation and rebirth, not necessarily physical death all the time, but it can mean that in some instances or cases. I'm not denying that at all. But if you look at a lot of these younger artists, they tend to gravitate to elements that are very darker when it comes to expressing themselves, okay? Expressing themselves with the, how would I say, with a deep level of pain. And it gives me like Scorpio vibes, I'm not gonna lie, and kind of like a little bit of Capricorn vibes. Sometimes Capricorn energy can be dark, okay? And also scorpionic or scorpion energy can be dark. And a lot of these younger artists, young women and men, young people in general, uh, regardless of their gender or their ethnicity or racial background or whatever, they're going through things. These people came from some tumultuous backgrounds, and they were fighting their whole lives just about, okay? um you have people who are dealing with past trauma, mental health issues. They have deep emotional wounds. They have trauma from their childhood. They have trauma from being in horrible relationships. They felt rejected. They didn't feel loved. And they create a duality. And you have these, what you call split personalities, right? So half of them feel alive, half of them feel dead. The one half, well, correction, in their body, their physical body, they feel like part of them is alive and part of them isn't. Okay? And these emotional wounds, these traumatic events, these tragic events that occurred in their lives is reflected through not only their music but also visually, and not just through album art but the videos, the movies, whatever they're into, because you have rappers who also are on TV shows, movies, stuff like that, right? Whether if it's on Tubi or whatever, people are the jack of all trades now. You know what I mean? So this is like a mask for them with the half human face, half skeleton face type of situation, and it shows that there is a separation between the soul and the physical body and how they feel both internally and externally, okay? So it also could represent like loss in love, because when a person feels like they have nothing else left, they feel like they're at a loss, like they could have lost a lot of loved ones, maybe a romantic partner, or they could have lost some really close friends slash confidants or something like that, and it's eating them away. Some people have lost their parents at an early age. Some people had traumatic experiences with their parents. Their parents could have been on drugs. Their parents could have been alcoholics. Their parents could have been abusing them or whatever. And it's being reflected through this sense of duality. But it's also giving me like light and dark, yin and yang, as above, so below. I'm just going to be honest type of energy, right? And I call it uh them also showing that there is mortality, just because it's like, yes, you live and you die, right? And we already know from even back in the day that Biggie, the notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie Smalls, and Tupac, or Tupac Shakur, we knew that they talked about dying a lot. And there are other artists who talked about this as well. Like we had Juice World, God rest all their souls. You know what I'm saying? He would talk about facing demons and pretty much feeling like he was dying. I think Lil Wayne talked about this a lot to him going through things in his music. We have a lot of artists. Oh, what's his name? XXX Tentacion, a lot of different artists. I'm just naming a few. We already, if you listen to rap or hip hop or trap or whatever, you already know like the themes of what goes on in the songs, pretty much. So they also call this Memento Mori, okay? And it escapes me now, but I gotta look that up really quickly because I remember, but then I forgot. So with the half skeleton face on album art, it is a strong representation of Memento Mori, which is Latin for remember you must die. Okay? And it juxtaposes life and death. That's why you have to have flesh, you have to have skeleton appearance. I was watching this movie called The Prodigy, where this boy was like possessed by this man or something, and if I recall correctly, the man had died or something the same day he was born, and they believed that the killer or whatever he was believe he was a killer or something like that. He had some psychological issues too. Obviously, that goes hand in hand. But his soul transferred into the or he no the boy ended up being a reincarnation of this killer, right? um yeah, it's like some type of transference or swapping happened. It was crazy, but anyway, with this symbolism, Memento Mori, it shows that basically being human, okay, is one thing, but we eventually have to pass on. We die. Our bodies eventually decay and all this other stuff. And we go back to, like some people say, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and we go back to the stardust or whatever. Depending on, if you're going in the ground, that's one thing. But if you're going in a mausoleum or something, okay, that's something different. But it basically comes from, and it was some type of, I want to say, yeah, yeah, it's like a strong depiction, a visual depiction of showing how humanity, although you are living, you could also be dead in the inside. And that's how a lot of these people feel who are artists or even actors and actresses, and other people in society. Everyday people feel like this, but everyday people aren't being plastered on social media, or they're not on stage performing in front of thousands of people, and they don't have that same leverage or access to people like that. So when you see this split face of a person that's half living and half dead, it just puts you in the mind of things that um sometimes some people don't realize how close they really are to death, in a sense. When you think about it, because some of these artists, like I said, they're living fast and they're dying young, or tragically their lives are being taken from them, because also you have people who hurt people or kill people or unalive people out of jealousy and envy. That happens. So I think another reason why a lot of these music artists depict themselves as being in this form is because some of them already feel like they're close to death anyway, like they're on a brush of death, and they probably have been on a brush to death or on a brush. Yeah, like they were brushing death pretty much, on a brush to death, and they didn't know if they were going to make it or not. And this is some type of maybe philosophy or mindset that they live by. Is like, okay, I don't know when I'm leaving here. I'm like in the in between in my body, in my physical body. Sometimes I feel like I'm living loudly. Sometimes I feel like I'm just empty and non existent, or already transitioned, like my life is over to some extent in their minds. And I believe that's why people gravitate to drugs so much when they're in the industry and they have all the money and the access to as many women, men, or whatever they want. The mansions, the cars, the women. And I think that's why a lot of people, when they have money, they live a destructive lifestyle, because they were already feeling incomplete already before they even got the money. The money don't mean a thing. Really, it's not going to heal you if you don't get that actual healing and support that you need. You need real people around you, not a bunch of yes men or yes women or yes people, whatever, however you want to put it, okay? So, although, yes, this imagery appears to be very morbid, but the truth remains that we are we could be here today, gone tomorrow, and that's the truth. You know what I'm saying? Although we're living in our flesh, it shows the duality of life. If you're born, you're gonna die eventually. You just are, and that's the sad thing that we have to accept, but it's the truth. But there are so many people who feel like this. And people may view life and death as not being opposites, but they go together. They're two halves that make a whole. And that's really the truth. Really. It seems, a little controversial, but I want to talk about how it affects people in Hollywood, right? Um, Give me 1 second. How this overall, how would I say, this overall depiction affects Hollywood when it comes to these visual tropes that they have. Um, People are kind of like obsessed with skulls. It could be a skull ring, it could be flags that have skulls and bones on them, supposedly. Some people may affiliate this way of thinking with being like morbid or dark in nature, like you may be drawn to the more harsher aspects of life. But I want to see, like, I'm trying to find something here. I want to see, yeah, on movie posters, yes. That's what I'm thinking of. It popped up. So, oh, I got a good one. And I've talked about Nosferatu before. Although Nosferatu is a vampire, that symbolism of how the way it looked, the creature or vampire looked, I saw a poster of that, and that's what made me want to think of talking about that. Um, he looked dead pretty much. He looked like the living dead. Almost kind of like a zombie and a vampire, to be honest. And also, in a way, it's like shock value. But as I'm thinking about it, Um, when I'm thinking of movies, I talked about the movie The Prodigy. And I had already explained that, but wait a minute, and I'm about to wrap this up, y'all, because I actually made this too long. I didn't really want it to be this long. Um, let's see. All right. Final Destination. You get that depiction of that half skeleton split, face type of symbolism. And we already know what that was about, showing how the impermanence of death is there and it ain't going nowhere. Like, it's, you can't control when it's your time to go or not. And whatever is meant to happen, I guess you call it fate, from my understanding, is going to happen. We also saw this with the Terminator, because really, when his face got ripped off or whatever, shot off or whatever happened, I can't remember the 1984 Terminator. I'm thinking about the 1992 one as well. And they had others throughout the years, but I was thinking of that too. And that reminds me of just the fact that, yes, that he he was kind of like part human, because he was a robotic cyborg, and a cyborg is like part human and part robot. So that was kind of tough, because he was a machine and he had humanoid features in flesh, pretty much. Um, I would even argue and say it was another one too. Another movie poster. For that movie, The Descent, it was shaped like a skull too, but then it had the lady like in the center or something. And but these were human bodies forming like a skull. These were all human bodies forming like a skull. But it was human flesh too, obviously. Well, they're not human flesh, but humans in the flesh, because they were forming their bodies to look like a skeleton. That was crazy. Let's see. Hellraiser was crazy to me, because oh my god, like, they did a lot of that, like, crazy stuff. um let's see, let's do Hellraiser, let's see what pops up. You also have Scream and stuff, but that's not like half, um yeah, but it's no, it's not. Okay. So, but with Hellraiser, this was crazy, because the Cenobite, the one who was like the nutcase, I forgot his name, he basically liked peeling back skin and shit. It was gross. Um, it was gross, okay? I'm just gonna say that. It showed a lot of stuff with skulls and anatomy and the Cenobites, these, I guess, evil beings or creatures from another, like the astral plane or something, y'all. It's crazy. Scream, that wasn't really like the half skeleton depiction or nothing like that, but The face was very spooky. The mask, rather, was very spooky. Okay. But Hellraiser is, yeah, it was gross. It was gross. It was, yeah, it was too much. Cause he just was weird with skin or whatever. Um, what is his Pinhead? I think that was his name, Pinhead from Hellraiser. One of the top, yep, one of the top movie villains. That's crazy. He was the lead. He was one of the leaders of the Cenobites, and said to be they were said to be humans who were transformed into demonic creatures devoted to the practice of experimental. What the hell? What was I reading? Oh, sadomasochism. Gross, fucking gross. Okay, as I'm thinking about it, like the stuff they were doing in the movie. Y'all got to see what I'm talking about. Uh, yeah, it was a mess. Um, but yeah, just to name some of those like morbid looking depictions that look kind of skeletal like in Hollywood, that was it, that's close to describing what I'm talking about. When it comes to the rappers, you see more rappers with this visualization on their album covers and stuff like that versus in the movies. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up and call it a day. We'll call it a night because I'm tired, y'all. All right, love y'all. Have a beautiful rest of y'all day. I know it's after midnight here. It's like 12:37. All right, peace. Y'all stay strong, stay blessed, stay beautiful, stay positive when it comes to your thinking and your mindset. Don't let the world get you down. Don't let people get you down. Peace. I love y'all once again. Stay blessed, stay safe. Yep, stay strong.